But first, earlier this year, we were lucky enough to talk to Ukrainian newsreader Marichka Padalko. She joined us to raise awareness of the Ukrainian plight and to give us insight into her day-to-day life. This is what happened.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know this is a very, very difficult time for you.
You know, I'm actually work at the backup studio, and we have to pick up and fill in every time that when we have alert in Kyiv. And actually, guys, I know we've been preparing for this interview for a long time and making arrangements, but what we're hearing now in the studio, that the airstrikes just announced in the studio that is having live broadcast now, which means I have 3 minutes only to get ready to fill in. That's why I'm here. So unfortunately, I have to say goodbye and maybe join you on another occasion.
Well, luckily it was a false alarm that time, and she was able to join us later in the show. And today, 119 days since the war started, she joins us again, this time from Kyiv. Welcome back, Marichka.
Thank you for having me again.
Lovely,
nice to see you.
Lovely to see you too. So tell us, how have things been for you since we last spoke?
I would say that things have not changed a lot in Ukraine, but you know, it's a human nature that people are getting used to all the bad things that are happening. So I'm back to Kyiv now. We're all working together with our colleagues. My kids are still in different places because Kyiv is still under airstrikes now and then, so it's not quite safe to bring them back. But my son is already back because his football team is already having training, and for him getting together with his teammates is a little bit returning to some normality that he used to have before February 24th. And for so many people who now don't have any plans for the future or don't know what to do, and for him to be back for training at least was a big boost, a big moral boost. Like for many people who are coming back home, not because it's safe, but because they want to stand on the ground that gives them a special power, and they understand that at least they are at home and in their own apartment or in their own bed, of course, if they still have their homes, if they are not destroyed. But you know that many houses around Kyiv were destroyed as the army was trying to stop Russians from besieging the city and from conquering Kyiv. So
Marichka, you mentioned about your lovely son who is 15 and he's with you, but you've also got 2 other daughters who are 11 and 13. Like, how are they and yourself coping knowing that you've got 1 child in Sweden and 1 in France? What's the conversation between you?
You know, I think I told my girls, since they were invited by our friends to go to France for some time, and my middle child joined her classmate who is staying in Sweden, I was saying that that's a special time to enjoy this feeling of solidarity that we have throughout Europe to people from Ukraine. It's a very unique time because, of course, we understand this for a very bad, for a terrible reason like war, but it's such a big holiday of humanity, of solidarity throughout Europe that Ukrainians are feeling now every day. And for us, it's still important that people don't forget about war. It's difficult to be thinking about war all the time, even for Ukrainians who live and experience this. And I understand that it shouldn't be a part of your everyday life to think what is going on in Ukraine. But unfortunately, the war hasn't vanished. It hasn't become any easier, especially for southern and eastern Ukraine, which is now being occupied and under heavy fights, and we're having a lot of casualties in the army. And of course, all women who have their husbands in the army are worried about their safety, about thinking about their coming back one day. So it hasn't been any easier, but still we're very appreciative of this support that we're getting from European countries and especially from the United Kingdom.
Marichka, I mean, I watch the news every single night and I weep for Ukraine. And I wonder, when you go to New York, which you have done for a benefit for Ukraine, how do you cope with seeing busy streets in New York, you know, what we would deem normality, people shopping, going about their business? How does that make you feel when you know the sadness that you've left behind in Ukraine?
I think it's a part of our everyday life now that we don't give ourselves a permission to be happy with the sun, happy with flowers, happy with having a normal life, just because we have guilty for those who are not happy now. So being in New York, I couldn't appreciate the whole moment of me being a host for a charity event in the very heart of New York, in the Times Square. It was a very unique time for me, but I don't think I was able to appreciate this moment in my life, which maybe will never happen again, or would have never happened if it were not for the war, just because of this feeling of guilt for people who are just dying now in Ukraine every day. And being in New York, it seems like the planet is so small and so big because it's so far from war, and people are thinking about all these different things and living very different life. But in other ways, the world is so global and everything so interconnected, because I know that war in Ukraine is now having an impact on very many countries in terms of economy, in terms of food supply. So I understand how we are all interconnected, and that would be for all, for the benefit of many countries, for the war to stop and have peace in Ukraine.
One little shred of normality there is obviously that there is still a lot of wind in Ukraine, and just to explain to people at home that that's what the noise on the microphone is. Marichka, we were just talking there about it is important to keep Ukraine in the headlines because there is a tendency for people to forget about what's going on there. So is it important, you know, we've seen Ben Stiller, the Hollywood actor, come over. Obviously, Boris Johnson's just visited again. Are those visits important to you?
I would say that all signs of support, big and small, are very, very important, because I understand that Hollywood actors cannot go and fight, but their visits, their words of support, all these small symbols of support that we get from different countries, from singers holding Ukrainian flags in their concerts, from just ordinary people having Ukrainian flags in their windows. Every day we need to get some energy from somewhere to keep on fighting, and that's the best source of energy, all the signs of solidarity that we get throughout the world. And of course, winning Eurovision was a great boost I think that was the first time in 3 months that we were happy for a few hours, like extremely happy, until we heard sirens throughout Ukraine. Just that night we won Eurovision.
Well, Marichka, as ever, it's been brilliant to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time to do it. And please stay safe.
Thank you for the war in Ukraine, and thank you for all the support we're getting from London, from the United Kingdom, and thank you for hosting Ukrainian refugees in Britain as well.
Well, do come back and talk to us again soon, and we wish you and your family, and we hope that your children, you're all reunited again soon. Thank you very, very much.
Bye, Marichka.
Bye.